All righty, welcome into the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave, cavetalkradio.com, the Cave Talk Radio app. It's great to have you aboard. Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo. We are here for better or for worse. You know what they say. Good to have you aboard. So a lot to get to today as Rich plays with his wires and gives you snap, crackle, and pop. There we go. Oh, there's more crackle. All right.
Well, either I do it now or it shuts off in a few minutes. I saw the battery was at 40%.
Oh, man. There we go. And anyway, so we got a lot of good stuff to get to today. One thing as far as an opening rant today, the NBA is playing a game today in Paris. And the NBA has a strong international following, has for a lot of years, decades, in fact. And more than the other sports, it actually makes sense to play overseas. It's ironic that it's the NFL that's really pushing for basically a division over there, or at least a team. But as we've talked about before, if they're going to put one team, you probably have to put four to make it logistically manageable. But the NBA should be the league that's considering that, if any league is, because they have the inbuilt following. It requires a lot less infrastructure to support an NBA team than an NFL team. Obviously, the stadiums or arenas are smaller. And depending where they do that, hypothetically, there are a number of countries that have significant enough amount of NBA talent or NBA quality talent that they could realistically really benefit from that in a lot of ways in terms of the pipeline of players. Yeah. That's not the case with football. So I think this is interesting, which is why I'm so disappointed that, for as far as I know, this is the first NBA regular season game in Paris. And given what I just said about how established and popular the league is overseas, I feel like we just gave the middle finger to our cousin. I mean, the teams we're sending over there, yeah, I mean, you would have to try really hard to come up with a worse, less appealing matchup. I mean, this is garbage. Chicago's like barely passable for mediocre, and Detroit is one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the league. I mean, this is awful. And Chicago doesn't have Ball, and they may not have DeRozan. You can have disgruntled Zach LaVine against whatever Detroit is. Like, what a mess, Rich. We are sending them. We shipped overseas and paid the express shipping costs and all that money to send over a bag of flaming trash. What a mess. Who wants to watch this garbage?
Oh, I know I don't.
Oh, man. What a disaster.
That is unfortunately pretty much what we did send over.
Oh, man.
I would have not only have liked to seen better teams, but what's the cost benefit analysis on playing one game?
Yeah, I mean,
at least let them play 2 of their 4 regular matchups.
Yes. Yeah, like a back-to-back, and each team loses a home game. Because who was do you know that?
Right.
Do you know which team lost a home game here?
I do not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I was just curious. But
I'm assuming, I think it's technically, is it Detroit at Chicago?
Well, I think it was the other way around. It was Chicago at Detroit.
Okay, then that's who lost.
Probably
the
Detroit.
Bottom team is the one that lost the home game.
Okay, well, they don't deserve home games anyway. They don't deserve.
But yeah,
games.
it's ridiculous.
What a
that
mess.
Is one of the worst.
I mean, realistically, if I was going to try to put together the worst possible, the least possible appealing matchup among all 30 NBA teams, Detroit's definitely on my short list of 2 or 3 teams to make that cut.
Right.
I mean, Chicago's probably a little bit above that. It probably wouldn't be Chicago. I mean, they're not that far out of the picture, but they are out of the picture because the other teams that come to mind are like San Antonio.
Yeah, can you imagine
Orlando.
if they sent Detroit and San Antonio?
Yes, this was so popular as a finals matchup 20 years ago. We're going to play it back now when there's no one on either team anyone wants to watch. That would probably be the worst one. Orlando's would be another really bad one. Charlotte might be
It would. Orlando at least has one player
one
you
guy.
want to watch.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
Charlotte would be even worse than Detroit. Charlotte's disastrous.
Charlotte's like oatmeal with nothing in it.
Yeah, healthy oatmeal.
They are so bland.
Oh, they're awful. And now Ball's hurt again. He got hurt last night. So if he's not playing, there's really nothing there to watch. Oh, what a disaster. Yeah, maybe that would be the worst matchup possible, Detroit and Charlotte.
I know I want to slap 100 down to get a ticket to see Frank Kaminsky, but will everybody else?
Yes, I can't wait to watch Tank the Frank or Frank the Tank, whatever the hell he is. Oh,
either way.
Oh, what a mess. But yeah, so that game's in Paris. So it's actually starting today at 3:00. So there you have it.
I don't even know if it's televised anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I wouldn't televise that. Why advertise trash? I have to think though.
At 3:00 though, your other options to watch.
Yeah, it's like reruns of soap operas.
The second game of the doubleheader from last night.
Yeah, or like reruns of soap opera or other awful daytime television. Yeah, so maybe. I'm still not watching it. I just won't watch TV that time. That's all. There's other things to do in life. So the only thing I can think of as to why, to your question from a minute ago, Rich, why are they playing just one random game here in the middle of the season between two random teams? I have to think there's some kind of complex, like cross-marketing, sponsorship, contractual obligations, like something like that, that's making this game a necessity, because it really doesn't make sense.
No, you gave each team 3 or 4 days off prior.
Mm-hmm.
And a few off after. It's like play two in 2 days even.
Right, play a back-to-back in the one
and then
location,
come home and give them 3 days off.
Yeah, that would have made more sense.
It makes absolutely zero sense.
This way, both teams lose a home game and everyone's happily miserable together.
And if you're going to build a following or trying to build more of a following, and the French league, it's not the Spanish league, but it's nothing to sneeze at. There's some good players in there.
Yep. The other thing about this too is, if I'm a fan of NBA basketball in France, I'm probably watching this, but I'm probably coming away disappointed. I would think if I actually follow the league, I know this isn't good. Right? Like,
why didn't we get the Lakers? Why didn't we get the Warriors? Why didn't we get the Celtics? Why didn't
right? Or if the league can't convince or strong arm their premium players and franchises, okay, something in the middle. Like, what if it was Bulls and Pacers? At least that's respectable. You know what I mean? Like, those are two teams that are like, the Bulls are but they do have some name players that, produce some good highlights. And the Pacers are, a borderline playoff team. They're both coming from the same general region of the country, so no one's going to have like a terrible flight. They're all going to have like about the same flight. Like something like that. I'm not expecting.
What if it's Sacramento and Dallas?
Well, coming from California to Europe, that's a real schlep. But yeah,
unless they go the other way.
Yeah, over Russia. Yeah,
it's still not a good flight. No, I just thought there were two teams. Yeah, I mean, if you want Lakers, Celtics, fine, but talk each of them out of not having a home game.
That's what I'm saying. You're not going to do that. What I'm saying is find two medium of the road teams that aren't huge markets that could produce at least a respectable game. I think
Memphis.
Memphis is a good one. Memphis and let's say, I don't know, Phoenix, or Memphis and
you don't want Phoenix going that far.
Yeah, that's far. Maybe Memphis and perhaps, I guess, Dallas would be reasonable.
Or Philly, or
Philly, or
Washington.
Yep, Washington's another one. Yeah, especially if Beal is healthy. Yep.
Which he's back. So.
Yep. So that's another option. So there you go. A lot of ideas. But hey, instead you got Chicago and Detroit. So hey, have fun. One last thing, I've always found it interesting that French cooking and French cuisine and culinary is considered like the world gold standard. And not for nothing, I have 2 problems with that. One, I don't really know, like, what French food is. Like, it doesn't have, like, an easily, in your mind identifiable dish the way, like, barbecue does. Okay, brisket or ribs or, ethnic cuisine. Okay, stewed chicken, jerk chicken, goat. Like, they don't have that. And the other thing, my bigger problem with French cooking is I'm hungry. Don't give me this little tiny thing of like blah blah blah, poached, twice dehydrated, extra
Oh,
virgin.
you can't be
No,
further off.
no way. Yuck,
You need to have a sit down with my sister.
yuck.
She talks about portions there and how when she's there, when she leaves New York to go there, she gains weight
Ugh, yuck. No,
because there's so much food.
I've been to about 4 or 5 French restaurants in the city
Don't
over the
go by
years.
what French restaurants are here.
Well, I'm not going to France to try something I already don't like.
Well, right, but you don't know what you like. I don't know because I haven't been
Well,
there yet.
yeah, I do know what I don't like, which is traveling to foreign countries.
But I mean when they start off with the plates of cheese and everything,
Yeah, I
you
can get that in New York.
everything's 3 or 4 courses,
Yeah, I can get that in New York. I don't need to go to
and
France for that.
it's not the same. So I can't judge it
Well,
because I haven't been there.
I'll judge it based on what I already know, which is my own experience. So that's fine. But yeah, I'm not going to France.
I don't
It's
know if I've ever been to a French restaurant here.
Yeah, I've been to a few and like the food is tasty. I don't dislike it, but it's the same thing with like Indian food. I don't know what it is. That's why I don't like going to places like that because I never remember what I liked and didn't like because I can't remember the name of things. I love Indian spices, but the problem I have with Indian food is a lot of it ends up being like soupy and stewy, and that's like not a meal to me. To me, that's like a first course or an appetizer or a side. But I love the combination of flavors and seasonings in Indian food.
Oh, I do too, and a good tikka masala is the best,
Yeah, but I don't know what like to me,
which is not soupy.
right? Yeah, that's not soupy. I tend to go with biryani if I go with a a Indian restaurant. Um,
Hmm.
but like even that, like I know at least a couple of defining identifiable characteristics. French cooking seems to be just kind of all over the map a little bit, and it's hard to pin down like a starting point with it. That's another challenge I have with French cooking.
Well,
But
remember France, although in a smaller relative space, is all over the map as well,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, because they were a colonizing country at one point.
which
So,
means you get a lot of different.
yeah, variations of it.
Right.
Right, yeah, of course. Just like you get different versions of Spanish. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, because they were colonizing countries, and each region that they previously colonized, their cultural heritage has morphed and changed and blended.
I had an aunt who was from Spain, and oh man, I love what she cooked.
Yeah, I like certain Spanish sectors. Like I love like the Jamaican and Peruvian type of like those type of Spanish influenced.
Yeah.
I'm not as big on Dominican cooking. It tends to be a lot of like raw looking stuff. But I love Jamaican cooking a lot. Like that Jamaican and Peruvian, I'm a big fan of. Um, Definitely a big fan. So, all right, well, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got the radio question of the day still ahead. Also, we're gonna dive into some of these NFL matchups more deeply. We got a bunch of sound bites to play, and we got a bunch of things to discuss, particularly with the Giants. I want to really break this game down from a matchup standpoint because look, we're a couple days away, and this is a big deal. This is the most relevant football game in New York in close to 10 years. I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a relevant playoff game. And this is the second one this year for the Giants, second one in as many weeks. Obviously, they won their wild card game. So it's pretty good stuff. I want to give it its due. We got a few NBA games tonight, not a huge slate. So we'll get into some of those. Of course, we'll have news you can use, top five, all that. Just getting started. It's the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. All right, we're back. What's going on? It's the Gary Ayd Show here on the Cave. Gary Ayd, Rich Anselmo, and it's time now for the radio question of the day.
Experts say less is more. I am KO. Back in a minute with your sports question of the day.
Duke the Pug will soon turn 20, which is pretty good for a dog breed that averages 11 years. When Duke was 13, he lost a lot of hair, had a hard time getting up for a walk, and his bowel movements were not very moving. We started making his food instead of buying it. We cook up a big batch of rice, chicken, broccoli, carrots, and turmeric, freeze meal-sized batches, and thaw them at mealtime. We also sprinkle Arthrodex on each meal. Arthrodex is a complete blend of plant-derived minerals, vitamins, amino acids, and enzymes formulated to make old dogs young again. And it does. Duke the Pug does have his problems, but he has all his hair, loves daily walks, and has no problems with his movements. Breakfast is at 7, and if it's not there by 7:01, we all hear about it. Make your old dog young again. Pick up Arthrodex at nutrients2go.com. And while you're at it, make yourself young again with a Healthy Body Start Pack. nutrients2go.com. nutrients2go.com.
Doctors are warning parents that young athletes are training too early, too hard, and with too little variety. Popular Science's Isabel Whitcomb reports that around a third of the nation's school-aged athletes focus on a single sport, and many of those athletes participate in intensive year-round training regimens while on multiple teams. Whitcomb says that experts in sports medicine and sports psychology are warning that single sport focus leads to increased risk of burnout and could have long-term consequences to their physical and mental health. Question: were you a single or multiple sport athlete?
I never really was what I would call a multi-sport athlete. I certainly played other sports, but not in the way that they're describing here. Like I dabbled in baseball, played some little league, off and on. I played my most serious little league when I was in my late teens. But realistically, as far as training for and practicing, I pretty much was a one sport athlete. I was pretty much basketball. And I don't really see a problem with this. I know there's a lot of people and a lot of studies that will say it's bad, but and I guess maybe if you're training like I guess the part of training too hard too early, I understand, and like I see why that's bad, but I don't really believe in this thing that if you specialize too early, that's bad. That might be less than optimal for just like life experience, but in terms of your physical health, I don't really buy that specializing is that big of a deal. I do agree that you can overtrain and overexert yourself too early and take the fun out of it, and that's where the burnout comes. I get that part. I hear that. But as far as the specialization, I don't think that's really an issue.
I don't either. I played two sports in school, baseball and basketball. I wonder if I would have just concentrated on baseball, where I could have gone, because I did end up at a tryout camp and I was let go that same day.
Mhm.
But I wonder if I'd have put more effort into baseball where it could have gone. It might not have gone anywhere. I don't regret doing both because I had different kinds of fun in each sport. And I like both sports. I didn't, because the seasons didn't overlap, I didn't want to have to give up one for the other.
Right.
But part of me does wonder what if.
Yeah,
And
that's
there's
understandable.
nothing wrong with that as long as you don't have regrets, which I don't.
Right.
But that question's there.
Yeah, and I mean, and I also think um I also think too the reasoning for the specialization and the focus and the intense training matters in evaluating sort of on a case by case basis whether it's healthy or not. Because if a kid, look, we all, at some point in our lives, some of us earlier than others, find something we're super passionate about and we're super obsessed with. And if that's organic from the kid that all they want to do is play whatever sport it is and train and practice and get as good as they can at whatever that is, then that's fine as far as I'm concerned. Where I have a problem is when you have these parents, these frustrated, has been or never was athletes trying to live their own dreams vicariously through their kids and pushing them to the point of exhaustion. That's when there's a problem. So I think the reason for the intense training is as important as its existence in the first place. Because if you're 12 years old and you're just totally into baseball, like, you're not going to get tired, because burnout, at least at that age especially, is mental more than physical. It's emotional more than physical. Like, you don't
Yeah.
burn out when you're 25 and younger. At least you shouldn't. Not physically
Except
anyway.
for those rare instances when parents push kids to that brink.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really, really far road to physically exhaust a 17-year-old or a 15-year-old. It just is. Mentally or emotionally, it's a much more attainable
It's
thing.
a quick drive.
Yeah, you really almost can't get physically exhausted at that age. I mean, even if you get physically
Right.
exhausted, you go to sleep for 4 hours, and all of a sudden it's like nothing ever happened. The magic of being young. You get to be 30.
I coached Little League baseball. And the only problem I had, I loved the kids. The only problem I had was the parents.
Oh yeah. Well, it's always the parents.
Just because you're some failure of an athlete somewhere, don't do this to your kid. It's not fair to them. And I saw more than my share of it, which is why I didn't do that for long.
Right.
The only reason why. It's because I was getting burned out on dealing with the parents.
I have my own story about coaching youth sports. I remember a couple years after I graduated high school. Well, the first 2 years after I graduated, I coached in the same league that I had played in. And my first year, I had players that were teammates just the year before. So that was obviously a little bit of a challenge. But then the next year, I still had some of those guys, but some of them graduated, and I had some guys that I didn't play with, but I knew some of them personally. Two of them, we grew up on the same street, so we were friends. One kid, the one the story is about, I had no knowledge of, no prior history with. His name was Kevin, and Kevin was an end of the bench guy. He was not really all that good. He didn't have a discernible skill, but he was reliable and a good kid, and he showed up and he tried hard. So we kept him on the roster, but he wasn't, a regular part of our rotation. Now, this was a town league where there were rules about, like, I couldn't cut people. We didn't really have practices. So yeah, and you tried to get everyone a certain amount of playing time. It wasn't exactly a rule, but it was kind of an expectation. So I played him when I could. We had like 2 guys on our team like this. And anyway, one day, I never had any problems with Kevin. One day, his dad, who came to a lot of the games, comes up to me at halftime. And remember, I'm like 19 or 20 here. I'm, barely out of high school. His dad comes up to me and like in a very like aggressive and accusatory way, he's like, "Why doesn't Kevin play more? I'd love to see him in the game." And me being me, even then, as a 50-year-old man, I say, "Well, because your son's not very good, sir. If he gets better, he'll play more." You could have heard his teeth rattle off the floor. He was shocked at my directness. That was the end of that. And Kevin comes up to me after the game. He says, "Thank you. My dad drives me crazy." He said, "I know where I stand. I know how good a team we have. Like, I'm not delusional. My dad is. So thanks."
It's true. It's usually the kids that get it more than the adults.
Yes.
And at that age, they want to have fun. That should be their main
Well, that's it. And that's what he was
source
there
for being there. It's
Right.
not
Exactly.
you're not competing for a medal. Come on,
especially in a league like that. This is a Saturday morning rec league there was some good players. It wasn't like, no one was going there playing bush and just throwing the ball around, but like, it wasn't hardcore competition either. And, you know, eh, this was something for the kids to do, and they enjoyed spending time together. And, we'd go out for like breakfast sandwiches afterwards or whatever, or before, depending on what time our game was. And that's what it was. And I yeah, and I didn't know how else to respond, so in that moment, I just like, that's how I'm default wired. I just say the truth. When I just pressed for an answer, the thing that comes out of my mouth is just what's in my head. So, and that was that. And this is going on 20 years ago now, but yeah, it was fun. Good times.
Yeah, I wish my stories were that good. It really did after a couple of years. Just
It does get old.
I said I've had enough.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say about me. I don't care what you call me. When you start doing it to the kids, I'm going to react.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
And you're not going to like what you hear.
no, I'm an adult. You could do whatever the hell you want with me.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, and and me in particular, even at that age, I was barely an adult. But even at that age, you really couldn't offend me. Like, I've always been basically unoffendable. So, whatever you say, I'm just gonna like laugh or forget about
Yeah.
it in 5 minutes. It's just I don't carry stuff like that with me. I just don't. I never have. But yeah, but yeah, if you're like, my thing was it's halftime of our game, and like, dude, like, leave us alone. So, like, I'm glad that ended as quickly as it did. I think that, like I said, my total directness and bluntness, it just you know what to say. It's what I started doing with the COVID zealots, like, after a while, like, and of course the stuff I'm about to relay, I didn't necessarily mean, but I don't want to get in a discussion with them. So they would try to guilt trip me into doing something I didn't want to do. And they would say things like, "Oh, you're okay with killing grandma?" And I would respond, "Yeah, I didn't like her anyway." And of course I don't mean that, but like, it's like, yeah, I don't
Right.
care who I kill. That's not my problem. That's their problem. They should get the vaccine then if it works. And, whether I believe that or not, it shut down the conversation, which was the point of it.
I've always very much been a you make your own decision and don't tell me what to do.
That's what I think.
It's
Yep.
everyone needs to make the best decision for themselves.
That's right.
And that's it.
And that's it. No, absolutely. And I do
that's
and I do think there is some logic in the argument that if someone's going to force someone else to get a vaccine to protect themselves, meaning the person who's trying to force them to get it, if that person, assuming they're already vaccinated, I think the argument of, well, if the vaccine works, why does it matter if I have it, if you have it? And if it
Right.
doesn't, then why are you forcing me? Like, I do think there's some logic to that argument, but more fundamentally, like you said, it's just a matter of free will. I don't care. Like, my wife has, like, I think 4 boosters at this point. I've lost count. Like, whatever. And that's fine.
I don't know how many it is. I don't.
Well, I'm just saying how many my wife has. I wasn't even talking about. I don't know
Yeah.
how many are out there, but I think she's got.
I
3 or
don't
4 of
either,
them.
to be honest.
Yeah, I have no clue. But I never got any shots. She's gotten a bunch of them, and that's it. Like, okay, that's what she thought was best for her. This is what I thought was best for me, and we move on with life. It's really should be that simple.
I had enough to be able to get into Canada.
There you go. You're Canadian approved. I am a heathen as far as our friends in the north are concerned. But
Well, I
that's okay.
sometimes need to do work, so
I understand. Yeah, they can.
and I think it's different for everybody. People,
Everyone has their own
ages,
reasons.
people that have issues that may.
Everyone has their reasons for doing things.
Yeah, and basically, there are laws put into place for medical protection of medical records that are there for a reason.
Oh yeah.
And it drove me nuts on social media when people would be wearing their COVID status using a badge or something,
Yes.
saying, "Hey, I'm
Yeah,
vaccinated."
go me.
Some people were stupid enough to put their cards up there, which really made me laugh.
Yes.
That's personal information.
Yes. Can I have your social real quick? Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
really.
All right, great.
The world
Why is
doesn't
it
need to
great?
know that you're vaxxed. Goodbye.
Yes, no, I don't care. There you go. But yeah, no, I think just kind of wrapping up this question about, I don't think there's really such a thing as over specializing too early. I do think there is such a thing as being overworked.
Yes.
If that work is not coming from a place of internal motivation, I think that's my qualifier. Like, because I know for myself, there was no such thing as too much basketball. Like in college, I know this is older than the age we're talking about, but I legitimately conservatively played 6 days a week, 4 or 5 hours a day for 3 years. Conservatively. Like 100% I played at least that much. So, like, that's just, I don't think there's if you're into something and that's just what you're about, I don't think there's any such thing as overworking. But I do think that if you're forced to work more than you want to on something, then it becomes a real problem real quick. So anyway, all right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we will get into some of this NFL matchup, particularly the Giants. I want to do a deep dive on their matchup with the Eagles. And then we have some NBA stuff to get to this hour. Top 5 news you can use, NHL second hour. Back after this, the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All right, so the New York Giants playing the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC divisional round. Also, of course, the division matchup. I have to tell you, Dave, I'm talking about Dave Drucker. He's our sales guy. I'm just texting him during the break. I have to tell you, Rich, I think the Giants have a real shot in this game. I really do. I think the Eagles are better. I think they're more explosive. Basically, I think they're a better, more polished version of Minnesota. Like, I thought Minnesota was more explosive, but they have like holes. The Eagles don't have those holes. But they have most of the same explosiveness. But I do think the Giants have a real shot here because the way the Giants play, they play clean. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They play a style that shortens the game for explosive offenses. And the Giants themselves, over the second half of the season, have gotten a lot more explosive. They're much more competent as a team than they were earlier in the year when they won a lot of those games. Earlier in the year, they won a lot of games that were like they could have just as easily, whatever they were, 7-1, they could have just as easily been 1-7. You know,
Right.
but their last half of the year, even though their winning percentage was lower, the way they played games was more impressive to me. I feel this team has more ways of winning now than it had earlier in the year. And I think most of that change is due to the growth and confidence that Daniel Jones has experienced. And concurrent with that, the growth of confidence that the coaching staff and by extension, the team has in him. Because they're letting him play a lot more. They're trusting him with much more of the offense, much more downfield plays, much more passing attempts that they weren't doing earlier in the year, which made sense because they basically treated him like a rookie. They had to build him back up, which is what they did in the first half of the year. A very heavy dose of Saquon Barkley, very controlled offense, and now they're playing much different.
I agree. I know more about what the Giants are than I do, say, the Minnesota Vikings, who you said I slammed all year long. Well, yeah, they won all these close games, and they gave up more points than they scored.
Yes.
To this point, and I've seen them play real clinkers, I have no idea what the Vikings are. I know the Giants' identity.
Mm-hmm.
And that says a lot about a team going into this situation.
No, I agree.
Oh, I'm uncomfortable now. I've moved.
You've moved. I just tried to
I was
surprise
moved
you there.
against my will.
Against your will. That's right.
You and your newfangled gadgets.
I'm telling you. Can't deal with the gadgets.
Which is why when we made our picks last week, I picked the Giants over the Vikings. I know what the Giants are. I still have no clue what the Vikings are.
Right.
Are they a team that can do so many things? I'm dizzy. Are they a team that can do so many things? A team that can do everything?
I just
throwing me off.
I just tried to mess with you at this point. No, but
I don't know.
Yeah,
I still don't know. Are they a team that were lucky they won those games because things fell into place?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? I know what the Giants are. I know they're the team that can deflate the football,
Yep,
run the clock,
yep,
run the ball, make big plays in the passing game, even when people don't expect it or still don't believe it. They're a lot better at it.
yes.
I think this game is as close to a toss-up as any game this weekend.
No, I look, I think it's a close game. I do think the Eagles are better. So I'm gonna stop short of calling it a toss-up. I'm comfortable picking the Eagles to win this game. But
Oh, I am too, because of their explosive.
they're so explosive and they're so fast defensively. I haven't seen a team this fast defensively in about 4 or 5 years. The last time I saw a team with this much speed on defense was probably Seattle when they were still like the Legion of Boom. Like
Legion of Boom.
Oh, this team is so fast defensively. And more than the offensive explosiveness that you touched on, that is my bigger concern for the Giants in this matchup is all of that newfound stability that Daniel Jones has achieved. I'm afraid it could go up in smoke against a defense that moves like this. I think this defense has the potential to really fluster anybody. And I that's my biggest concern in this game for the Giants is can they deal with the speed and ferocity of that Eagles defense? That's going to be a really tough task.
Make the offense simple. Keep it simple. Keep it moving quickly, but don't go away from the core of what you do.
Right.
What if the Eagles have 8 possessions in the game? Then I like their chances a lot more.
Yep.
What if they have 7 or even 6?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've controlled the ball. That's what I mean about it being up in the air.
Yeah. No, that's understandable.
I think the Eagles are the better team.
Yep. Yeah, I do too. But
Just talent wise.
yeah, well, yeah.
But I know a lot of people that thought Minnesota was talent wise.
Yep. And I think and maybe they are. But the Giants managed to win that game, and they won that game in a way that was impressive because they basically beat the Vikings at their own game. That game was what, 34-31? That's not a Giants score,
No, not at all.
So they beat the Vikings at their own game, which was impressive. I expect this to be a higher scoring game too. I expect this to be the winner is pushing 30. I think I'm expecting, 30 for the winner and anywhere from 20 to 27 or so for the loser. I expect this to be somewhere between a field goal and a 10-point game, depending how it plays out. If the Giants can keep it clean and not turn the ball over against this fast defense, I think this game comes right down to the wire. If there's even one turnover from the Giants here, when I say turnover, I mean one net turnover, like negative, then I think it's a 10-score game because Philly converts turnovers into points as good as any team in the NFL. So
that they do.
So I think that's going to be where we're at with that. All right, let's take one more break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour with a little NHL report. Then we'll get you set for hour 2. Top 5, of course, we'll leave that hour. We'll take a look at some of the other NFL matchups. We'll look into tonight's NBA games. And then, of course, we'll have news you can use as well. It's the Gary Ayd Show back after this with the NHL report here on The Cave.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you are ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. 800-741-9557. That's 800-741-9557. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. 800-826-5884. That's 800-826-5884.
All right, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. Gary Ayd, Rich, and Selmo. It's good to have you aboard. And let's do a quick NHL report. What do we got, Rich?
Light night last night. It was a TNT night. There were only 5 games. One game was of local interest. The Boston Bruins went on the island and beat the Islanders 4-1. That's about how close the game was. They're just simply the best team in hockey. One interesting note last night in Tampa Bay's 5-2 win over Vancouver, Steven Stamkos got a hat trick, including his 500th regular season goal. So congrats to him, and props for doing it all with one team. That seldom happens anymore. Well, except in the case of Ovechkin.
There you go.
Crazy 13-game night tonight in the league. The Devils are in Seattle to take on the Kraken.
Your boys.
It's Ryan Miller night in Buffalo, as they're honoring the former Sabres great goalie, and they are hosting the Islanders, who are in their second game of a back-to-back. And the Bruins stay in New York to take on the Rangers tonight.
There we go. Awesome stuff. I like it. Yeah, you look at the Rangers. They're a team that is really lighting the city on fire in terms of just people are into it. I don't know how good they really are, but they're certainly getting everyone excited.
They're good. They are good. Just remember, though, that the East is packed.
Mm-hmm.
Boston is the best team in the league. Carolina's not far behind them. The Rangers have competition right in their own area with the Devils, who are also playing very well. There is a large number of good teams in the East and a lot of young teams that are getting better. There's not a lot of bad here. So they have to bring it. They basically have to play their game every night, and they're getting better goaltending than they were earlier in the season. That means a lot.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, goaltending is to hockey what quarterback play is to football.
Right.
Yep. So,
speaking of football, the Cowboys, I didn't know if you saw this or not, signed a kicker to the practice squad.
Yes.
Yes. After what Maher did last week.
That was so interesting, and we barely touched on it because the game was such a formality anyway. The Cowboys completely destroyed Tampa anyway, but that was so crazy. Could you imagine if that was a close game or if the Cowboys lost? All hell would have broken loose.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's lucky that was kind of covered up. It still got some play, but it was kind of covered up by the fact that those 4 points were irrelevant. But, that's the type of thing that ruins careers, which is why they brought this guy in probably as backup, because that's the type of thing that becomes that. This is it reminds me of what happened to, was it Derek Anderson with Orlando? With the free throws? Yeah, back in the early mid-90s.
Derek. Derek was a quarterback.
No. Nick Anderson.
Yes.
Yeah, Nick Anderson. Yep. This could be like that. I mean, because that basically ruined his career. He played years after that, but he was never the same player. This could cause something like that. I mean, that's not a normal thing to happen to a kicker. It's really not.
No, and he's been so consistent for them.
Yes.
Even the special teams coach said, this is perfect because it gives me a chance not only to be a coach, but to work through this with him mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry Jones said they do believe in him.
Yeah, I mean, one game should not a career define, but this was so over the top terrible that you do wonder and worry about his mental solvency, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Fossil, the special teams coach, met with him, and he said he was extremely distraught. And he tried to tell him that confront it, don't pretend it didn't happen, but just remember it's a bad day at the office and you'll come back from it.
Yep.
So they seem to be working with him on it, and that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the guy made 29 of 32 field goals. I mean, just don't you just don't toss that out.
Exactly.
Because of something he hasn't been done before. Hey, the Buccaneers are going to fire offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich after the Cowboys lost. Yeah, that'll solve everything. It is all his fault.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think he was a particularly good offensive coordinator, to be honest with you. I don't think that's the worst move in the world. It's not going to fix everything, but
it's not, definitely. It's not going to fix the offensive line.
But I do think a different play caller might make them a little bit better next year. I do believe that. So we'll see. Anyway, let's take a quick break. We got the top of the hour coming up. We'll come back. We will do our top 5. We'll dive more into the remaining NFL games. We have of course, news you can use, and we have a few NBA games to get to as well. It's the Gary Ayd Show, hour number 2 around the corner here on The Cave. All righty, welcome back to the Gary Ayd Show here on The Cave. Rich laughing, uncontrollably laughing.
Because I've done the same thing myself many times.
Oh, yes, yeah. I have to hit the mute button.
Yes.
Well, there we go. Hour 2. Good to have you aboard. Top of the hour. Time for the top 5.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time for King Talk Radio's Top 5.
Alrighty, there we have it. Let's go. What do we got for the top 5 today, Rich?
Okay, I've got a few days of these coming up because there are many unanswered NFL questions after the season. And teams are expecting that Lamar Jackson is going to be made available for a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Give me your top 5 destinations for him.
Well, first of all, I believe it, because I've been talking about that for a couple of days. So I definitely believe that he will be made available for a trade. And the question is to where, which is the top 5. Well,
and is it going to happen this year, or might they just put the franchise tag on him for a year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think they probably will look to trade him this year, but they will be very, very particular. And if they don't get exactly what they want, they'll franchise him and become maybe less particular and more realistic as time goes on.
Right.
But I think he'll be moved before the deadline next year. Like I said, this will get messy, I believe. If I was a team, I'd be very concerned about acquiring this guy. I think this guy requires a very stable, specific, and patient organization to find success. I don't think he would have found a fraction of the success on almost any other organization in the NFL. Maybe Pittsburgh, maybe New England, maybe Kansas City, like very few teams. And obviously most of those teams don't need a quarterback. Now, New England's an interesting one. They might need someone. There would be quite a difference stylistically from what they're used to. But
right.
If there's an organization that I think would have the creative juices and the discipline and structure to have success with a guy like Lamar, New England's certainly on that list because of how good Belichick is. So I would say that is an option. I think the Jets should be considering all quarterback alternatives because they don't have a quarterback right now, as far as I'm concerned. So that they should be on the list. If I was the Jets, I would more prefer Derek Carr because I think we have a decent but not great team. And I think his style of play is more universally plug and play than Lamar's is. So I would go Derek Carr first, but certainly I would have Jackson on my radar if I'm the Jets. So that's another team. Houston has to be looking for something. They had a quarterback who a lot better than Lamar Jackson as a passer, especially, but certainly another mobile guy in Watson. So they could probably learn this style pretty quickly. And they, again, don't have a lot to like there anywhere, let alone quarterback. So Houston comes to mind. I think I think the Raiders have to come to mind. Are we really excited about Steedham? I'm not.
He was on the Raiders are on my list. Houston was not, funny enough.
Yeah.
But I have a bunch of teams here under consideration.
Yeah, so I think Houston, the Jets, the Patriots, the Raiders all come to mind. I have an interesting one. I know he had a decent season, but I don't look at Geno Smith as anything more than a stopgap guy. What about Seattle? That could be an interesting one.
I think Smith's a real good fit there, though.
I don't know. I never bought into it. I think what we saw against the Niners in the second half is Geno Smith.
I think that's also the Niners.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I wouldn't want to go into a new season with him as the undisputed starter. I don't think he's that good. I would be calling Lamar Jackson's reps if I was Seattle. Because that's
I would question paying him as much as he's going to want.
See, that's another team that can work with his approach, though, with his skill set. They made Russell Wilson look good. They can make Lamar Jackson look good too. Denver comes to mind again. Although they're stuck with that contract, so they can't afford to do that.
Yeah, they're not doing
Yeah,
anything.
they can't. So
I had the Commanders down too.
yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I can see the Commanders. I think that's a good an option.
So I had Atlanta, the Saints.
Atlanta and New Orleans. Yep, they both make some sense. And I
There's a
think
lot of teams that make sense in this.
the one other team that and they're not going to, but I would be curious. If I was the Steelers, I don't like Kenny Pickett all that much. This would add a whole new dynamic and energy to that organization, and I think that would be cool. I would make the call because the thing is, his long-term salary is going to go down in direct proportion to what type of trade offers the Ravens field for him. If they're getting offers of like 1 or 2 first-round picks, then you're probably looking at, a 25 to 30 million a year contract. If they're getting offers of 4 or 5 first-round picks, you're probably looking at a 40 or a 50 million a year contract.
And I'd be real leery about paying him that.
Well, I don't think he's going to get that. That's what I'm getting.
As would the Steelers. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, no, I think most teams will be. And because look, if he was a 40 or 50 million dollar type of guy, we wouldn't be having this conversation. They would have locked him in already, and that would have been that. The Ravens know he's a specialty item. They know he's good, but he's sort of unique and not really super versatile. Probably doesn't hold up well over a really long period of time because of the way he plays and his build and his skill set. So that's why I believe the Ravens want to keep him at their price.
I think he's more valuable to the Ravens than any team we've talked about.
He probably is.
I really do. That's why I think it would behoove them to keep him. But again, it has to be at their price, and he has to get off. He has to get off this guarantee and big money because he's not there.
I think he'll get plenty of guarantee. I wouldn't be surprised if he got 90% guaranteed. I think the bigger problem for teams is how much, not how much is guaranteed. I think that the teams are going to want to control the length of this contract and the total dollar value. I think it's pretty much accepted that with quarterbacks, you basically have to start at 80% guaranteed and go up from there. I think that's basically the way it is. And I wouldn't, if I was negotiating with him, I wouldn't even play around with that. Like this is what I would come in at. I would come in at a 4-year, $100 million deal, 80 million guaranteed.
Okay.
That's where I would start with Lamar.
I wouldn't give him a longer deal than that because this is the second year in a row now. These injuries are concerning.
Right. Exactly. And if they were negotiating on length, my counter would be, okay, we'll make it a 6-year deal, but years 5 and 6 are contingent on playing X number of games in years 4 and 5. And then they automatically vest. So if that number is, say, 15, let's say, if you play 15 games in year 4, you automatically get year 5. It's like there's nothing, it just automatically sinks in. And then the same thing again, year 5 to year 6.
Okay.
And I would be okay with that. But I'm not going over about 30 million a year on this guy, and I'm not going over about 100 million guaranteed or 80 million guaranteed. So if he's looking for like a 200 something million dollar deal, 8-year deal, he's not going to get that from anyone. He certainly wouldn't get it from me. But if I could get
he'll get it from someone. There's going to be someone reaching Cleveland level stupidity out there.
I don't know. Because
Denver level stupidity.
Yeah, I mean, because they're going to have to trade for him. That's the thing. So
yeah,
I think he's going to get more of a contract similar to Kirk Cousins than to Russell Wilson. That's what I think.
Okay.
Because I do think his unique position in the league is going to be something that is perceived and leveraged by pretty much every team. So I do think even teams that get desperate are going to do so at a lower starting point than someone who, like Wilson, who before last year was regarded among the top 5 or so quarterbacks in the league. Lamar's
Right.
not starting from that lofty perch, so I think his end game is going to be less.
Yeah, but the thing now is the mobile quarterback.
Yep.
And that means a lot. Teams really want mobile quarterbacks.
Yep. Oh, I know.
They, I mean, when you got 280-pound defensive ends running 4.5s,
yeah, you need to be mobile. You better be mobile.
I think the day and age of the statue back in the pocket may be over.
What's interesting about that, though, is
another team that intrigued me, Miami. If they're truly worried about Tua's future, would they consider it?
They might. I could see that. Yeah, so we've named about a third of the teams in the league, maybe more. So let's try to narrow this down. To me, I think the first team that comes to mind is New England, because I think Lamar Jackson makes them a sure playoff team. I think he adds a dynamic of explosiveness and unpredictability to an otherwise non-explosive, highly predictable offense. And I think Belichick is smart enough and crafty enough to leverage that skill while keeping him controlled and in a good rhythm and flow. So I think that would be the perfect fit for everybody. The Patriots desperately need a shot in the arm offensively. They have the coach to make it work. Lamar absolutely needs a strong organization to support him and make him play to the best of his abilities. New England represents that. I think that would be the absolute best fit for all parties. So that's my number one. Number 2 on my list, I think, is the Jets. I think the Jets, by adding someone like that, they solve 2 problems in one. They upgrade their quarterback position, and they add the explosive playmaker, game breaker that they so desperately need outside of Hall. So they kind of solve 2 roster problems in one with that. So I think that's a real good option there. Number 3 for me is going to be, I'm torn between New Orleans, Atlanta, and Houston. I'm going to go with Houston because they more recently had a quarterback that is similar to Jackson stylistically. And I think that would be well received by the fan base there, and maybe by some of the players who have been around for a couple of years. So I'm going to go Houston at 3. I'm going to go Seattle at 4. I don't believe in Geno Smith. I believe in Jackson much more. I trust this team and this coaching staff to really get the best out of him. And I think this would make them a very dangerous, scary team. So I'm going to go Lamar Jackson to Seattle at 4. And 5th for me, you could take your pick of teams here. There's about 10 other teams I could pick from. Those 4 kind of stand aside to me. The 5th, I could go in a lot of different directions. I'm just going to go with the Raiders. I just can't imagine you want to go into a season with Steedham as your guy. I just can't picture it.
Yeah, I'm the same way on that.
I mean, like, really? That's like, I just don't believe it. So that's my 5. 1, the Patriots. 2, the Jets. 3, we're going Houston. 4, I'm going Seattle. And 5, I'm going with the Raiders.
Interesting.
That's my top 5.
Interesting. I like it.
What was your list on this one?
And I think this is all contingent on him not going back to Baltimore.
Yes. Well, I thought that was the kind of
which seems to make the most sense. I had New England. I had Houston. I also had Tampa Bay. What's going on? I think Brady wants to go back home to finish his career.
Wouldn't that be interesting? You mean home as in California or home as in New England? Oh, okay.
No, home as in Northern California.
So the Raiders. Well, that's not really Northern California.
No, they're in Vegas.
Yeah, but the Niners don't need a quarterback.
Well, you tell them that because they're interested.
They got enough problems with quarterback. They got 3
Well,
guys.
they're also looking to trade Lance.
Good. I like the sound of that. But I'm all in on Brock Purdy myself at this point.
I think they want Brady there for a year or two to teach him more.
Mm-hmm.
But they are very interested, and I don't think he would have a problem with it.
Ugh, I don't know what I would do there. I'd probably have to adopt a new favorite team for a couple of years.
Why?
I can't root for Brady.
You know, let one guy.
Absolutely. I'm a player's guy over a team guy. Always have been.
Okay.
I rooted against the Niners in the Super Bowl when they were playing the Peyton Manning, or Ray Lewis rather. I'm a player's guy first. Always have been. My loyalties are to players more than teams.
Oh, okay.
Always have been. Yeah, so no, I definitely couldn't root for.
I should be more that way.
Yeah, that's just how I am.
Man, the Clippers are putting me through some stuff. My God, are they terrible? Well, that's another topic.
That's another topic. Yeah. So
I had the Raiders on my list as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, makes sense. There's a lot of teams that could use this guy. I mean, that's the bottom line.
That's why I'm thinking, should Baltimore really consider what they have? And
see, here's what I would do if I was Baltimore. I would trade Jackson because I think they're going to get a pretty good bounty for him because of the number of teams that could potentially be interested. And then I would go about trying to acquire Derek Carr with a portion of that bounty and then fill in the roster with the rest of it. Because I think Derek Carr is going to cost a lot less to acquire than Jackson will in both trade assets and money. And I think that with the balance of what you got for Jackson, after you've spent some of it to get Carr, I think you could really upgrade your team and be better than you were last year at both quarterback and elsewhere.
Okay.
See, if I was Baltimore, that would be my end game: is move Jackson for, let's say, 3 or 4 draft picks, acquire Carr for 1 or 2, and then use the balance to
get offensive linemen.
Yes, yep.
Carr can't move around anywhere near the way.
Right. Yeah, get an offensive lineman, maybe another downfield threat because Carr is a better passer than Jackson is, and fortify the roster. That's what I would do. That would be my goal anyway. I know it's easier said than done, but that would be what I would be.
Yeah, they're all easier.
Yes, yes. It's much better being us than the GMs that have to figure this mess out. But
yes,
it's much easier to just talk about it. But
oh yeah,
that would be what I would be trying to do anyway. So there we have it. That is the top 5. We'll come back. We'll go through the remaining NFL playoff games, and then we'll give our predictions tomorrow. Today we'll just kind of break them down, and then we will also get into the NBA matchups from tonight. And we'll have news you can use. About 35 minutes or so left on the show. Back after this here in the cave.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at crazy low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts at over 500 different airlines. Plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best price for you. Call SmartFares today and get ready to see the world with a fat wallet.
800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. 800-370-2460. That's 800-370-2460.
Come on, you watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Oh, good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do. And you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. 800-649-8617. That's 800-649-8617.
All right, so we may as well pick up where we left off in the NFC and look at the classic 90s matchup. You're talking an old school matchup here, longtime rivalry. This is blue blood NFL territory, Cowboys and Niners, baby. That just sounds cool saying.
It does. It really does. And this is quite the interesting game. And I think it's going to be the toughest test of Purdy's young career.
Yes, I agree.
I really do. That is one good defense.
Mm-hmm. They are.
They have pass rushers that are fast and have moves.
Yes.
They have a good secondary. Where I would attack them is in the linebackers because they're good,
Mm-hmm.
But I think Kittle could exploit some of that.
Yeah, especially if they're going to send Parsons on blitzes, which they like to do.
Yeah.
If I was Dallas, I would be keeping Parsons back in coverage for exactly that reason.
But they won't.
They probably won't, right?
Because they've done it this way all year, and it works.
It's been very effective, right?
Yeah. And I think Kittle and McCaffrey can hit them.
It would be interesting, staying on that theme for a moment. It would be interesting to do some disguise blitzes with Parsons and maybe an outside backer or a safety, like basically line up in blitz coverage for Parsons, show blitz, and then drop into coverage and send a kind of hidden blitzer from behind him, like a cross blitz from a safety.
Yeah.
I think that could lead to some at least one or two interceptions in the game, because San Francisco is going to be expecting Parsons to come. So if he shows blitz and there's a guy basically hiding behind him, running in at the last second, and then Parsons drops into coverage, I could see Purdy going right to where he thinks Kittle's going to be, and Parsons beating him to the spot. That would be an interesting chess match.
That would, and that could happen. I also don't think Dallas's offense is going to be as explosive against this Niner defense.
Yeah, no way. I agree.
I think this is going to be more of a defensive battle.
Yeah, I think we'll see a very classic football game in terms of score here. I think we're getting 27-24, 24-23.
24, yeah.
Yeah.
24-20,
yep.
I thought.
Yep, yeah, I think I don't think either team will get to 30. I could see 28-24. I don't think either team will get to 30. I don't think either team's going to hold anyone down under 20 either. I think both offenses are too good for that. But I think both defenses are good. That's what makes this a great matchup, besides just the nostalgia and the heritage of it, is the fact that both of these teams are very complete.
Oh, yes.
Neither team has many weaknesses. They're both very well-rounded teams that are both well coached. I think the Niners do have an advantage in coaching, especially on the offensive side of the ball.
I do too. I think he's going to put some different wrinkles in to get some people open that you may not expect.
Yeah, no, Shanahan, I think, is the best offensive mind in the NFL right now.
I do too.
But I do think Mike McCarthy is unfairly marginalized. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think Mike McCarthy is a very solid NFL coach. I really do.
That's about what I call him. He's a solid coach.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's
not
solid
a great coach. And he's not a terrible.
He's a good coach. He's a good, solid coach.
Yeah.
And, I think that ultimately this is a matchup that's going to come down to the play on the field. I don't think either team is weak enough coaching wise or strong enough to overcome the solid strength of the opposing coach to make coaching a differentiator in this game. I think this game comes down to the play on the field and execution. I really do. Which is good.
I agree.
This game, I am watching this cover to cover. There's no question about it. Because this is one of those games, it's like Celtics and Lakers. Like when you have a Celtics-Lakers finals game, it just means a little bit more. It just does.
It does. It does.
And this is one of those things. It's like Red Sox, Yankees, Dodgers, Giants. This is one of those type of rivalries. It really, truly is. I'm not missing this. I'm all in for this one. I'm getting wings and beer and the whole thing, meatballs, whatever. Like I'm going in with this one.
What are you doing, Gary?
Yeah, meatballs.
Preparing the meatballs. I got a game to
That's
watch.
right. I got a game to watch, baby. Let's go. I'm telling you. And you know what? By the way, this has nothing to do with me being a Niners fan and everything with me being a football fan and a fan of sports history. This is just history in the present. I mean, you very rarely get to live history in the moment. And I love these type of matchups in every sport. I don't miss these. I never do. I can't wait.
You can't miss them. I mean, that's
no. So definitely the coolest matchup of the weekend. Let's move over to the AFC. We already touched on the Giants. We'll give our predictions tomorrow, our final predictions.
The other Saturday game is interesting. And I think it could be interesting for a half, the Jaguars and Chiefs.
Give it a whole half.
Yeah, I do. Because I think Kansas City's propensity to start out slow, especially after a week off, can sometimes hit. And if Jacksonville can get an early score and not turn the ball over, they can find themselves in that game, and that can sustain them for a while. I think the Chiefs just have too much.
Yeah, I agree. Now, let me ask you the forbidden question. What if the Jaguars pulled off the ultimate upset? How big of a hit would Mahomes take to his reputation and current standing as like the undisputed? You don't think so?
No. He didn't take it after last year when they lost to the Bengals.
Yeah, well, I think the Bengals were perceived as better than this year's Jaguars are perceived. And I think maybe...
Yeah, but everyone was surprised they were there.
Yeah, well, I was. I mean, I know I was. I'm not saying I wasn't. But I do think the Bengals, last year's Bengals and this year's Bengals, for that matter, are definitely a lot better than Jacksonville is this year.
Yeah.
But I think it depends. I'll answer my own question. I think it depends on the circumstances of the game. I think if Mahomes has a couple of turnovers and the Jaguars win, I think there will be some, not questions about his future. Obviously, he's too good for that. But I think there will be some questioning where in the pecking order he really is, and does he have to still prove something? I think there absolutely will be some of that if he plays.
But they all still have to prove something. Allen has to prove something. I mean, they all do.
I'm talking about the talking points here. I mean, ultimately, that's going to be the conversation, I believe. And I also think that, it matters. Look, if he throws 4 touchdowns and the Chiefs defense just doesn't stop Jacksonville, then I don't think,
that's not on Mahomes.
That's not going to happen. Right.
Right.
But I think if Mahomes,
and I don't think Mahomes is going to crap all over himself.
No, I'm not suggesting I think this is going to happen. I'm just discussing what
it would be interesting if it did.
If it did. And I also
in my eyes, though, he wouldn't take a big hit.
Yeah, I think he would have. I think there would be some talking.
There would. Especially on social, there'd be some blowback. There'd be a lot of it.
But I think he also,
and of course, that would give us something to talk about, which would make it more interesting.
Absolutely, and I think he also gets away with it. Let's say he has a bad game. Let's say he has 2 touchdowns and 3 picks, but the Chiefs win. I don't think it matters.
Right.
This time of year, especially, wins are wins. Like however you get them. Like that Bills game was ugly as hell, but they won. So
as was the Bengals.
Right, exactly.
They both won.
Right, they both won. So that's all that matters this time of year.
Yeah, survive and advance.
Yep, that's it.
This is it.
That's it. That's right. So and then all right. So the last game, of course.
Speaking of Bills Bengals,
Bills Bengals. This is the toughest game for me to pick this week. I
have one major question for each team.
Okay.
Can the Bengals protect Joe Burrow? They've had issues there before. They're without their left tackle now, who got hurt last week, and without another offensive lineman. And who in the Bills secondary can be the guy to step up? Tre'Davious White's back, but he's not Tre'Davious White yet. And I think with the kind of injury he had, that takes another offseason.
Yeah, I have the same question you do about Cincinnati. My question on Buffalo is a little different, and it's maybe a little bit longer term too. Do they really have as great of an offensive skill set team as people perceive them to? Diggs and Allen are awesome, and Davis makes himself available conveniently in important situations.
Yeah, Knox is a very good tight end.
Yeah, but I always feel that when I watch the Bills, if I'm the other team, if I can stop Diggs, I like my chances. Now, I would like to see someone, whether it's Knox or Davis, one of those two, tear it up this week. I would love to see Davis or Knox go for like 7 catches, like 90 yards and 2 scores or something like that.
Davis has a history of it. He did it last year in the playoffs against the Chiefs.
That's why I mentioned he has a propensity of coming up in these situations.
Yeah.
So I want to see that, because the problem I have with guys who are perceived as guys that raise their game in big spots is if you're not consistently at that level, it's hard for me to believe that you're randomly going to be at that level every big game. Even if you've done it a couple of times in the past, which Davis has. So I know he's capable of it. That's not the question. It's a matter of consistency. And more to that point, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm not feeling threatened by Gabe Davis or Knox. I know they're good. I can't just leave them open. I know that.
I'm sitting here saying, fine, don't be threatened.
But I don't feel, they don't scare me. Diggs scares me. Allen terrifies me. But like those other receivers, I feel comfortable playing one-on-one against. The other question, of course, we mentioned this the other day, is can the Bills, or maybe more operatively, will the Bills run the ball? Because against a team like Cincinnati that plays downhill so much on defense, that's going to give you a lot of advantages if you consistently do that and execute it and do it with some success.
They've got a 1-2 punch to do it with Singletary and the rookie, the Vikings backs, younger brother Cook.
Yep, Cook.
Cook gets downhill quickly.
He does.
And he has a burst. Singletary can do a lot of different things. But they just don't get used. And this is my main issue with Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator. I'm going to keep Brian Daboll's offense. Well, I really wish you would have. Because Daboll was amazing at using these guys. With Gabe Davis having the up and down year, it's a little different. He was a third receiver.
Yep.
This year, he's asked to be a second.
Yep.
It's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. It absolutely is. You go from playing in the slot to playing on the outside. That alone makes a huge difference.
And a big thing for me is I would love to see them get another receiver and put him back in the slot where he's unstoppable.
Exactly. No, I agree. If they could land themselves, let's say.
That's why they wanted Beckham so bad.
Yes, that would have made a lot of sense. While we're in the topic of hypotheticals, if he's mad as hell at the fact that McDaniels loves Steedham, hey, Adams, he's not Aaron Rodgers, but he's pretty damn close. You want to come play for Josh Allen? And you're going to get probably second coverage.
I think he would like that.
We call this a buffet. All you can eat, baby.
Can you imagine Davis back as a third receiver too?
Oh, well, yeah, especially if the second receiver is Adams. I got to cover Adams and Diggs. Okay, now I'm terrified of everything.
That's the one thing this offense is missing.
Yeah, and that's my question. I think they're plenty good enough to maybe even go all the way. They might very well do it. But right now, I think that's the one thing that I question. But this is going to be a tough game. I mean, this could be a hard game for both teams. And of course, emotionally, it's going to be an interesting game too, because of, recent history.
For both teams.
Right, for both teams, right. So that's going to be it's going to be interesting. Well, there you have it. So tomorrow we'll do our picks. We'll kind of rehash this, review this, and give our final picks. We are going to go take a break right now. When we come back, we'll look at the NBA schedule for today. And then we'll close it out with some news you can use. It's the Gary Ayd Show. Back after this here on The Cave.
Are you like me? You have health insurance, but you don't have dental insurance. Do you need to get to the dentist right away? Maybe you need an implant or some other major service. Well, I found a dental insurance plan that's just right for you. It's called Spirit Dental. Spirit Dental offers a $100 lifetime deductible, a huge network of dentists. And here's the best part. There's no waiting periods. Yeah, that means you can call right now and have real dental insurance for you and your family tomorrow and get that immediate coverage you want. Spirit Dental has plans for just a few dollars a day, up to $5,000 annual maximum, and coverage for implants. Whatever age you are, the dental insurance you need is a free phone call away. Now don't wait, and be sure to ask about Spirit's vision plan. Here's the number: 800-631-9229. 800-631-9229. That's 800-631-9229.
Hey friend, life happens and you need money. What do? You call the special toll-free number we're about to give you. We will send you a link to your phone with details on how you can loan up to $5,000. Couldn't you use $5,000 to pay for your rent, pay grocery bills, get your car repaired, or whatever you need? It's up to you. We don't care. We're just here to lend you the money. And we'll lend people money with good, bad, or no credit at all. Of course, some terms and conditions apply, and you'll see those on the link we're going to send you. So if you need up to $5,000 maybe as soon as the next business day, call this number right now. We will text you a free link with details.
Paid for by Money Mutual. Call 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. 800-586-7112. That's 800-586-7112.
All righty, we're back here on the Gary Ayd Show. Gary Ayd, Rich, and Selmo. It's good to have you aboard. All right, so we got a few games in the NBA tonight, 5 in fact.
Before we do that,
yes,
someone born in Atlantic City, went to Holy Spirit High School, won 3 NBA championships, and made the first 3-point field goal in league history. Chris Ford passed away.
Yes, he did. It's true. Yep.
And we're remiss in not mentioning that yesterday.
Yeah, that happened. I think, did that happen before or after our
Well, it happened late Tuesday. And I had it on my list and did not put it on Wednesday.
Got it. Okay. Yep. So yeah, he was interesting player, really good coach.
Yeah.
Basketball lifer.
And went to the NCAA final in 71 with Villanova.
Yep.
Where they lost to the best team boosters could buy, UCLA.
Hey, money talks.
Money well spent.
Absolutely. Hey, that's how it goes. All right. Yeah. So rest in peace to Chris Ford. So we got one local playing tonight. That is Brooklyn. They are taking on Phoenix. This is a actually interesting game to me because both teams are in the same predicament. Obviously, the Nets have the luxury of being well above 500. The Suns are actually 3 games under, but both teams are basically playing with half a deck or less. Any word on if Kyrie's playing tonight? I know he's day to day. We know Durant's out, but I'll tell you what, if Kyrie doesn't play, where do the Nets get points from?
That was my question.
Yeah.
Where do they get points from? If he plays,
yeah, I think they win.
I think this is a great team to get well against.
Yes.
Because the Suns do not look right.
Well, no, they're 3 under 500. Booker's out, Payne is out, Paul and Johnson all doubtful. I mean, that's another one. Like, where are you getting points? That's why this game is interesting to me, especially if Kyrie doesn't play. Because then it's really a battle of your benches, essentially, and your bottom 3 starters.
And you're going to need guys to step up. Dinwiddie.
Yep.
Patty Mills.
Yep.
Harris.
Yep, exactly.
You're going to need all 3 of them to fill that void.
Hey, Ben Simmons, shoot the ball.
Well, he had a triple-double when Kyrie didn't play the other night.
Yeah,
so that's
get more points. Go for it.
He's capable of scoring.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if Kyrie's not playing, if I'm Jacques Vaughn, I'm telling Ben Simmons, if I don't see a 2 and a 0 in front of your shot attempts at the end of tonight, I'm
You're
disappointed.
never going to see that.
Well,
You're never going to see.
without-
He's not going to put up. He's not going to put up shots like Kyrie.
well,
He's going to take them where they're the most opportunistic.
well,
That's how he plays.
I'm putting the ball in his hand, and I don't want him taking jump shots. I'm not saying don't play your game, but I am saying you're going to have the ball, dictating the offense the whole game if these two don't play, because who else would? And from those 70 possessions, 80 possessions that you're going to have the ball in your hand at, I don't think it's unreasonable for you to shoot a quarter of the time. I really don't. And why shouldn't he be, 10 of 20 or 10 of 17, like 18? Like, he should shoot the ball close to 20 times if those two aren't playing.
It's not going to happen. I'm just telling you.
It really needs to.
I think he's going to try to get more shots for Dinwiddie. I think they're going to get Patty Mills involved if Kyrie doesn't play. I think they're going to do a lot of different things.
I don't think
any of them are going to involve him shooting that many times.
Yeah, see, that to me would be very disappointing.
I'd rather he have 15 assists than take 20 shots.
Well, I'm saying he's going to have the ball enough where I don't think those two are mutually exclusive. I think he could very easily have 17 shots and 14 assists. I really do. Because he's going to have the ball the whole game. Unless you're going to put it in Dinwiddie's hands and then play Simmons as basically a center. I guess you could do that. But
you don't there's so many different ways they can go.
I would be putting the ball, particularly with both Payne and Johnson likely out. I'm putting the ball in Simmons' hand because just from a size and athleticism standpoint, Phoenix is going to have to put Bridges on him, right? Their best defender. They're going to have to. I mean, unless they're going to go with Ayton, I guess they could.
Chris Paul ain't guarding him.
Well, Chris Paul might be out, but even if he wasn't, he can't guard him. Simmons is 6'10" or close to it. So what I'm saying is, if Simmons is my third best scorer, but I'm forcing the other team to put their number one perimeter defender on him, that alone, you have to make sure that defender knows he has to stay with you the whole game. You have to take enough shots for him to zone in. Otherwise, you allow them to get away with putting a lesser guy on you because you're not a threat. As long as he's taking 14, 15 shots, at least, the very minimum, then what you can do is you can get those 14 or 15 assists because now who's guarding Dinwiddie? If Bridges is guarding Simmons, who's guarding Dinwiddie?
Right.
Whoever it is a far drop-off from Bridges defensively, and Dinwiddie can feast on that.
Very true and very interesting.
But
it'll be interesting to see what approach they take.
No, it will be, because if I'm Phoenix, I'm starting the game with Bridges on Simmons because I have to. But if Simmons comes out and in the first quarter he has one shot attempt, I'm going to start cheating and maybe moving over, one of my other guys to guard him and see if I can get away with it. And then move Bridges against Dinwiddie.
Or what if that makes Simmons take more shots?
Well, then you switch back, right? Well, that's going to be the chess match. That's why I'm interested in this game.
I am too, and it is the second TNT game tonight.
Yes.
So.
Yep. So that's why I'm interested in this game. I think Phoenix wins this one. If Kyrie doesn't play, I don't have confidence in Brooklyn without. I mean, after what I saw them do against the Spurs, without Kyrie, I didn't realize they were going to be this inept offensively. I knew they would struggle to score points, but playing the Spurs is like almost not playing against the defense. And they still get 100.
Pretty much is.
So that really concerned me. I know it's one game, but those are the type of things that during the course of a long season, it's like when you're like making pancakes and there's that one big bubble that bursts. There's always that one. That was the bubble. It was like, oh man, I noticed that. So anyway, let's take a look at some of these other games. You have Chicago, Detroit. We already talked about that one. In Paris, that's going off in a couple hours. Golden State at Boston, Toronto, Minnesota, Philly at Portland. Let's start with that one, Rich. Philly and Portland, because this is probably the next most interesting game on the list for me.
It is. Nurkic has to at least make Embiid's life a little challenging.
Mm-hmm.
If he doesn't and Embiid just goes out there and does what he wants, game's done.
Yes.
If they actually make a concerted effort to get Nurkic the ball and at least make Embiid work a little bit on defense, he can't just roam the lane and block shots.
Right. I think that's the biggest key. I think you just hit the nail on the head, because helping Nurkic defend Embiid, the best way to do that is to make Embiid defend Nurkic.
Right. And that's going to be the key in that game. Portland does not do that consistently.
They don't seem to know how to use front court offense.
No, they don't. I mean, Jeremy Grant's an exception.
Yeah, and he's kind of a hybrid anyway.
Right.
Nurkic really is a more like high post
He's a
to
center.
low post. Yeah, he's a high post to low post guy.
Right.
He doesn't really roam much beyond that.
Right. He'll take a three if he's open.
Yeah, mostly from
and
the
he
corners.
can make them.
Those short corners. Yep.
Or right at the top of this, all the way in the top of the circle.
Yeah.
Behind the free throw line. He doesn't like go to the wing.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. And that's going to be how Portland will tend to use him.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Philly wins this game.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Portland has a window, a way to win this game, but I think it's very narrow and very exacting. I think Philly has a lot more margin of error. And I think that's going to be the difference in this one. I think Philly's just better, basically, is what it boils down to. And I have no confidence in Nurkic or Portland slowing down Embiid. I know we just talked about it for 5 minutes, but it's not going to happen. Embiid's so.
Oh, he's not going to slow him down. The best thing he can do is get in the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Don't make it easy.
Right. All right. So that's that. Who did you have in the Brooklyn Phoenix game? I picked Phoenix to win this one.
Brooklyn if Kyrie plays.
Okay. Yeah, me too. Okay. And Phoenix if he doesn't?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we're the same there. We both have Philly. All right, let's move over to, I think, the third best game on the docket, which is Golden State and Boston. Look, if I'm Steve Kerr, I'm pulling my hair out this season, because despite all the injuries we've had, we're still one of the 4 or 5 best offenses in the NBA. They're still scoring 117 and change a game, but we're not guarding anybody. Like,
right.
Even if they just gave up 115 a game, which would still be pretty bad, they would probably have about 9 more wins.
Right.
Like, they'd be well over 500. Instead, they're sitting here at 22 and 22 because, Rich, they don't defend nobody.
No,
they get killed by everybody. Like,
it's true.
It's nuts. Are they the only team? This is something to maybe look up, and we can throw this out tomorrow. But I bet you they're the only team in the top 5 in the NBA in scoring that has a negative point differential.
I think they are.
That's sick.
I think they are. I think Oklahoma City may.
They might. They're close too. Yeah.
And they're a good scoring team.
Yeah, because even the Kings give up a lot of points, but they still have a
but they score almost 120.
Right.
And they give up like 116 and change.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's actually gone up from a 1.5 difference to like 2.5 points.
Right. Almost 3. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unexcusable to score almost 118 a game and be negative in point differential. Like, that just shouldn't happen.
It is.
What's causing that? I know we've talked about Klay Thompson maybe having lost a step defensively because of his injuries.
He has.
But what else?
I think Draymond Green's getting old. Mm-hmm. He is definitely not the effective force he was.
Yep.
In the past. And I just think it's the young players not there yet.
Yeah. I think they're maybe really missing Kuminga more than they realized they would, because he's probably the one young guy on their roster that really is.
He has great defensive ability.
Yeah, he does.
And Looney's a good defender.
Yeah, he's doing his job though. Looney's still very much in the.
He does,
and he's
very consistent.
Yeah, he's consistent. I'll tell you. I mean, I don't see. I know Jaylen Brown is questionable in this game, so that's a factor. But even with that, with the way Golden State can't guard, I don't see how they're going to win, because Boston's just as good and better than them offensively by the numbers anyway. and they defend.
Right.
I don't see
Right.
how Golden State wins this game.
No, I don't.
honestly.
I don't either.
Yeah, Boston's better, and they're at home. I just don't see it.
And that's the thing. The Warriors in the first rematch won
Right.
at home.
Yes.
Now they're in Boston.
Right.
I don't think they're winning this.
No, I totally agree. The one thing that I think the Warriors could try to do to win this game is, and this will take concerted effort from Curry to get into the lane. And honestly, it's probably not the best strategy for Golden State because they have to force what would normally be considered not an advantageous matchup. But I would be trying to use Curry's driving ability, get him switched with screens where Tatum is guarding him, and try to get a couple of cheap fouls on Tatum early on. And I know that's not the best matchup for Curry because of Tatum's length and size, but I'm trying to use my
right. But it's
craftiness.
important to try to get him into foul trouble.
And no one else is going to do that. I mean, maybe Klay Thompson could, and that might be a better approach because at least he's got the right size and build to kind of go at him.
I don't know.
But Curry's more shifty and more.
Yeah, he is.
You know, he also tends to get those whistles in a more reactionary type of way. You know, so he's kind of gets that star treatment a little bit. So, I would go ahead and try to do that. But yeah, I'm stretching here. I just think Boston's better.
Yeah, Boston's going to win the game. Period.
I think so. All right, we got 2 games left.
Oh God, we're gonna do every one. I got like 2 minutes for news you can.
Yeah,
use.
well, we already did. It's really only one left because we already talked about Chicago and Detroit. Quickly, Toronto and Minnesota.
I don't care.
I don't care. I think Minnesota wins this game.
It's
it's
not neither team.
Yeah, neither
looks good to me.
Neither's exciting. I think Minnesota wins this game.
And if Gobert doesn't play, I think Toronto can win it.
Yeah, no, I think Minnesota wins either way. I think the combination of Russell and Edwards is too much for Toronto. I think they just beat them just purely based on athletic talent. But yeah, I don't care too much about this game. All right, let's hit the news you can use.
Okay, how'd you like to get Reggie Bullock back for Cam Reddish? It's being proposed.
So Bullock
Reddish
is playing
to Dallas
in Dallas.
For Bullock. Yeah,
I mean, I think that's good for Dallas. I think Reddish is a really good player.
I think it's good for Dallas too.
I mean, I guess if the Knicks aren't,
I don't think it's that good for the Knicks.
Yeah, but they clearly have decided that Reddish is not one of their guys. So,
well, yeah, they have to move him out. But geez,
yeah, I
really,
agree.
I'm not interested in that.
Not my idea of a good deal either.
The NHL made a statement about Ivan Provorov not wearing the jersey, and I was surprised by this.
I was too.
They said hockey is for everyone, is what we believe in, and clubs decide who to celebrate, when, and how, and players are free to decide which initiatives to support. Good for them.
Absolutely.
I like that.
I do too. That is the way everything should be run and perceived and accepted in this country. Like we were saying before about the vaccine situation, you do what you think is best for you. I'll do what I think is best for me, and everyone goes along in life. And that's exactly what this statement basically says in a slightly different context. And that is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now,
I wish everyone would take that approach.
I totally agree. I hope the NHL actually means that and didn't just think it was the PR expedient thing to do. But I'm just going to take it. No,
because I think if they took the PR approach, they would have went the opposite way.
Unless they're reading the room and saying, "Oh, half of our fans are better, wouldn't support this." Whatever. I'm happy with this statement. I'm just going to choose to take it at face value. Good for them.
The New York Mets added Tommy Pham to the roster. 1 year, $6 million. Hey, that's
yawn.
I just write the stuff. I don't make it up.
Boring, blah, blah, blah. Jed Lowry 2.0. Oh, spare me. We still need a power hitting third baseman.
I think Pham's a fourth outfielder at best.
Blah, blah, blah. Yep.
Live Golf on the verge of announcing a TV deal with the CW network. That's funny just to say.
Oh, we bringing back Michigan J Frog along with it? Can we? Remember Michigan J Frog of CW, the old mascot? Let's do it. home of Michigan J Frog. Come on, bring him back, baby. Let's go.
And one last one, Cowboys Bucks wild card game set an ESPN record with 31.2 million viewers.
Which game was that?
Cowboys Bucks.
Oh yeah, I saw that. They actually topped out at 40 million and they averaged 31.5.
Yeah.
You know how insane that is?
Oh, it is.
That's like more than the peak audience is more than 10% of the country. The average audience is about 10% of the country. It's a whole country of 340 something million people. That is an insane, crazy number.
Isn't it?
And this is why I've always been concerned about the long-term sustainability of going heavy and heavier with live streaming games. It's one thing to have one, usually not best game in the world, Amazon game a week. If you fast forward this idea 10 years, if it's all streaming, I don't know, with the popularity of the NFL, I don't know that they could ever have enough bandwidth and servers to support this. That's a monumental technical undertaking. It really is.
It is.
So anyway, all right, well, that does it for us. We will see you again tomorrow. Enjoy Tiddling Sports with Rick Tittle. That's next here on The Cave. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 to noon here on The